Hi everybody. In this video, we're going to address the last two characteristics of the self-actualized individual. And let's do it. Number 12, greatly increased creativeness. Okay, not just increased creativeness, but greatly increased creativeness. So very interesting, right? Why Maslow felt the need to make it very, very emphatic, right? Greatly increased creativeness, meaning like the self-actualized or self-actualizing individual, the person who lives the best life possible. This person will be somebody who clearly manifests an interest and an engagement, a continuous engagement with some sort of creative endeavor. Okay. Now, people tend to think of creative endeavors and creativity, they tend to associate that with art, like playing an instrument or writing poetry or painting or something like that. But it's not. I would say being creative is not limited to art. You can be creative if you one day you decide to, or you develop an interest in carpentry and you enjoy just making furniture, making chairs and tables and that sort of thing. That is a creative endeavor, definitely. Or putting together a video like I'm doing right now, right? You are producing something, creating something out of your intelligence, your artistic, your skills and your experiences, right? So producing something, giving something to this world. And that's something I often say, I often tell people, my students, right? That I am convinced that every single one of us, every single human being has something unique to give this world. And this is what I'm doing, right? Among other things, I'm doing other things, but I'm creating content videos that have to do with how to live well, how to make sense of life, and so on. So that's my contribution, and I'm convinced that everybody has something to give to this world. And the problem is people are not, or some people, perhaps most people, they're not aware that they have this creative capacity inside themselves. They either because they have never thought about the idea, or maybe because they have repressed desires that probably they had when they were little, when they were young. And this is what I mean. Probably growing up, you maybe you were interested in being part of the theater club, let's say, or you were interested in dancing, and you probably thought, okay, it's this is silly. People are gonna, my friends are gonna make fun of me for doing these things, and you repressed that, and you simply forgot about it. Well, you definitely need to revisit those feelings, those desires. Because, like I said, there is something there. I am sure there is something really, really interesting, really valuable there inside of you, waiting to be manifested. A desire to create something, share something with the world. So, this is something very, very important, and something, again, that people who are self-actualized, people who are living their best lives, they do on a regular basis, and it's noticeable, it's evident to most people that they are very, very mindful of creating, producing something. So that's number 12. Number 13, certain changes in the value system. Okay, so that means what? That means we all have values, okay, things that we consider very, very important. I guess we can make a distinction between personal values and moral values, which is personal values are things that are particularly important to you, valuable to you. In my case, philosophy, history, learning, teaching, these are things that are very, very important to me. They're valuable to me at a personal level. But at a moral level, then that's a different thing. We're talking about things that you think are important to do, to believe. And I'm thinking things like being generous or being compassionate, right? Or being honest. Okay, those are moral values. And Maslow says here, as a result of his research, right? These are not just his ideas or his opinions about, what is the best possible life. He has done his research, so he has plenty of data to support his claims. Maslow believes that people who are self-actualized or they're in the path, they're self-actualizing, they change their values, their moral values, and that's a good thing. Okay, I would say everybody, we tend to um, grow up with a particular fixed idea of what's right, what's wrong. And that's it. And I don't know, we feel a commitment or we feel comfortable uh, with those values. And we keep living our lives the same way with the same moral values. But it's a characteristic of the self actualized individual to change your mind sometimes about these values that you have. Now, I have a quote to share, and then I'll say more about what this means. Certain changes in the value system. It sounds so vague compared to the previous characteristic, right? The previous characteristic is really, really clear, very emphatic, greatly increased creativeness. This one doesn't sound as clear, as emphatic. Certain changes. What kind of changes? So let's see what he says. Maslow writes, I suspect that what is good for the healthy person may very probably be good for the less healthy person too, and is what the sick ones would also choose if they could become better choosers. Another way of saying this is that healthy people are better choosers than unhealthy people. Now, you see, people might immediately here might stop and criticize, right, what Maslow is saying. Like, what standard are you using? They might ask. Better according to whom? According to what? How can you determine who is choosing good and who is not choosing that good? Right? We need some standards, we need some values. That's true. But there are values. There are values. What are those values? Let's see. He says, I think that B values, we talked about this in a previous video, B for being or existence. I like to see B values as existential values. So, continuing with the quote, I think that the existential values within the person, are to some extent isomorphic, very, very similar in form, with the same values perceived in the world. Okay, so in other words, he says, I'm pretty sure that what is valuable to you as an individual, morally speaking, it's very similar to what's important for everybody else in the whole world. Once again, things like being generous, things like being honest, being compassionate, being creative, being patient, forgiving. Okay, pay attention to all these words that I'm mentioning, I'm saying, all these values. My contention is, and I'm pretty confident it's the right attitude or the right thing to say. These values are good. They're considered as such as values worldwide, across cultures. Like if you go to any country in the world, you ask people, do you think being generous is a good thing? People would say, oh yeah, absolutely. Do you think being honest it's a good thing? I'm sure people will say, oh yeah, that's definitely a good thing. Do you think art is a good thing? Being creative is a good thing? Do you think being compassionate is a good thing? Do you think being responsible is a good thing? Do you think being diligent, being hardworking is a good thing? And I can add more and more values to the list because there's so many things that are valued across cultures everywhere in the world. So when you um, grow, let's say, psychologically, and you're in that path of becoming a self-actualizing, you will discover, you will come to this realization that there are many things that you probably consider important in the past that they're not that important, and that there'll be new things that you're considering important, and that's a good thing, changing your mind. Do you remember the very first characteristic of the self-actualized individual was that the self-actualized individual has a superior perception of reality? Remember that? People who are self-actualized, they see things in more detail. Things are not black and white for the self-actualized people. They see a lot of gray in between. So their perception is high resolution. And therefore, obviously, they're going to choose better. They're going to see it's going to be easier for them to identify what is a good choice, what is from a bad choice. And they're going to be mindful of all these values that they're good, they're important across cultures, and they're going to choose accordingly, and they're going to live accordingly. But you see, this also has to do, this characteristic 13 has to do with having an increased appreciation of others. Characteristic number 2, when you realize, or when you develop, right, the perception that people are unique, that people are wonderful, people are universes in themselves, an expression that I used in the past. And when you see people in their full complexity, you will stop putting them in boxes and labeling people. And you'll be more capable of seeing people's potential, seeing their values, seeing their skills, their talents, and you're going to relate more to people. This has to do with characteristic number 11 from the previous video. Having a more democratic structure, character structure, perception. You really develop this capacity to feel you identify with everybody else, with the whole world. People are not just people or strangers, good or bad. You put people in boxes, conservatives, liberals. No, no. People are members of your species. They're brothers and sisters to you. So they're very, very valuable. Every single one of them, even those who are not the nicest or the friendliest, even those people, you can see goodness in them because you have this superior perception, because you see them as members of your species. And having this perception, definitely, it's going to make you a better chooser, and it's going to make you have these universal values. Because in the end, that's what Maslow is saying right here, right? That these values inside of you are isomorphic. They're the same. They're pretty much the same values as people have in everywhere, most people in the world. So that's the person, let's say, we want to become. And it's a challenge. I totally get that, how challenging it is to see people like that, like a brother or a sister, as somebody who is incredible despite their flaws, their mistakes, their traumas. People are fascinating. And developing that perspective again makes you change your minds about what's valuable, morally speaking. I'm going to finish with something that I also said in the first characteristic of the self-actualized individual and having this superior perception of reality. I mentioned Carl Rogers, another very important American psychologist, who who said who offered this test for making sure to test yourself to see if you're really listening to people. When you talk to people, you want to know if you're really, really listening. It's easy. When you listen to people, and especially you're talking to people you disagree with, right? They're telling you something that you don't fully like or you disagree absolutely. Try to offer them a summary of what they're saying. Okay, so you tell them, are you telling me A, B, and C? And if the person talking to you says, yes, that's what I'm saying, okay, good, then you're listening. If they say, no, 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 that's not what I'm saying, okay, then you ask questions and try to listen closely and then offer a new summary. So, okay, now I hear you again. You're telling me A, B, and F. Is that correct? If the person says, yes, that's correct, okay, good, you're listening. Okay, the risk, the risk with listening to people like that is that you change. You begin to change your perspective. You change your beliefs. And this is what we're talking about right here. You change your beliefs, your ideas of what's important, what's valuable. You change your morals because you're understanding, you're fully understanding other people's perspective. And by other people, I mean especially people you disagree with. You're going to begin to see their point. And that's going to make you maybe adopt their point of view. And that is very scary to many people. Like, what? Are you serious? Like, if I listen to somebody who votes differently than me, and I'm really listening and I'm doing this test, right? Providing a summary every time they tell me something, that means that I might become like them, that I might end up voting like them. Yes, that's what I'm saying. And that's why people find this kind of listening, real listening, scary, intimidating. Gosh, I don't want to think like my enemies, my political enemies or something like that, or people I don't like. But this is self-actualization, friends. This is not easy. It's not easy. It takes courage and it takes work. I've said many times in previous videos, people might say, yeah, easier said than done. Yeah, I know it's easy to say it. It's hard to do it, but that's exactly why it matters. Because as I said in another video, it is what creates value is work and sacrifice. Okay, so whatever it's valuable, that is the result of work and sacrifice. So you want to live a good life, the best life you can live? Well, the path is not going to be easy because accomplishing all these characteristics, they're not easy. They're not easy to get to accomplish. Take a lot of work, take a lot of sacrifice. But friends, it is totally worth it. It is absolutely worth it. Who does not want to live the, the best life possible? It's possible. It's available to you, but that's what it takes. Work and sacrifice. That's all I have to say for now. I'm going to continue making drops, but we're done with the characteristics of the self-actualized individual. I really hope these videos have been helpful addressing these characteristics. And if they have been, please post a comment so I can see more concretely how these videos are making a positive difference in your life or in the life of your patients. So once again, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.